All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're gonna be talking about the newest release from Rogue Perfumery called Bonded. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on this fragrance, then let's go. All right guys, so here is my bottle of Bonded. This is just a 30 ml bottle, and that's one thing that I really like about the house of Rogue Perfumery is they offer 30 ml and 100 ml bottles. And so for me, I think most of you guys know my situation. So I live here in Japan, so my space is quite limited, and I keep all of my fragrances in like powered wine coolers. So it has like a controlled temperature. If you're not aware, in Japan, we don't have like central heating or air conditioning. So we get massive temperature fluctuations within the house. So this is a way for me to kind of mitigate those temperature fluctuations and to keep my fragrances all at one temperature, basically the same temperature throughout the entire year. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Rogue Perfumery, they are an artisanal house. And this fragrance house was started by Manuel Cross. He actually used to be a chef, and then I think a chef who was also, enjoyed fragrances, wearing fragrances, and then one of the fragrances that he really loved became discontinued, and he was like, man, I really want to have that smell or be able to appreciate that smell. And so he started creating his own fragrances. And Rogue Perfumery, I think, has been known for, I think there's this, I guess, almost kind of controversial in a way in terms of, whether they are IFRA compliant or not, using kind of natural oak moss, and whether that oak moss was IFRA compliant. I don't know. I haven't done enough research about that, but I guess there are kind of rumors that maybe they are IFRA compliant or that they have always been IFRA compliant. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, one thing about them too is that you can definitely tell through the majority of their fragrances, and I've smelled quite a few, not all of their fragrances, but I've sampled quite a few of their fragrances, and many of them, Manuel has his distinct DNA in that use of oak moss, whether natural or not, that he puts in a lot of his fragrances. And it has such a distinct smell. And it's unlike any other oak moss that I've smelled in any of these kind of modern day fragrances. Now, you may be able to smell an oak moss like that with fragrances used back in the 80s or even before that. And to give you an example, like the fragrance that he released called Mousse Illumine is kind of like, it pushes along those lines of like an 80s powerhouse style of fragrance. And it has that distinct kind of oak moss smell. And so that's a common theme that you'll find throughout many of his fragrances. And yeah, I think with this latest release, Bonded here, I think it's Manuel Cross's attempt to kind of step outside of the box in terms of what he usually releases, while also staying true to the scent DNA of Rogue Perfumery. So yeah, I feel like, he was just kind of trying something a bit new, but he was also staying true to his kind of brand and to what he enjoys in fragrance. So let's jump into this review of Bonded. So first, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my hand to kind of refresh my memory of the opening here. So I'm gonna put it right here, one little spray. And before I kind of jump into this, so my image of this is if you go to like a smoke-filled cigar lounge, and there's like a whiskey barrel there, but the whiskey barrel doesn't have any whiskey inside, but you put your head in and you sniff around and you're picking up those aromas of the whiskey that have remained, even though there's no whiskey in there. And then, you take a seat at the bar and you look down, and on the floor isn't a wooden floor, but it is a mossy forest floor. And the aromas that you're getting from that moss, all those kind of scents and that are kind of combined for the vibe. And that's basically what you get here in this bottle of Bonded. Yeah, it is a very bold statement maker fragrance, but it whispers rather than shouts. However, that whisper is so profound that people will listen. And that's something that I really, really love about this fragrance. You can definitely tell from the get-go of this fragrance. Basically what you get is from the initial spray, you have like that tobacco that has a subtle sweetness to it, and you're getting the remnants of whiskey. I wouldn't say it's not like a whiskey that you smell like in Bada Onda from Nasamato. Again, this is whiskey that was distilled in the barrel, and you're smelling it from the barrel, but there's no whiskey in there. So you're smelling the remnants of that whiskey. And there's this green kind of oak mossy tinge that, like I said before, the majority of Rogue fragrances have this note in there. So it's a very distinct smell. And if you've ever smelled any of perfumes from Rogue, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then, once this fragrance starts to dry down, those tobacco-y nuances start to subside. And then you get a bit of oud that starts to push forward, bringing this woody, even kind of earthiness to this. But the oud in here, it's Vietnamese oud, but it doesn't have any kind of funk or animalic to it. It's more so bringing like a woody presence to this fragrance. Man, this is so good though. And also to kind of speak about the notes, basically this has whiskey, tobacco, Vietnamese oud, and oak moss. And there may be more in there, but basically what's listed off the site, those are the 4 notes that are listed. All right, so this is a very masculine smelling fragrance. This is a man's man. Like, all fragrances are unisex, but I feel like this one is undoubtedly masculine pushing. It definitely pushes heavily to the masculine side of unisex. Now, women who love kind of boozy, woody, slightly earthy fragrances may really enjoy a fragrance like this, but this just screams masculine in my opinion. But man, what I also really love about this is when you start to push into the deep, deep dry down, the tobacco has subsided, those woody notes are still there, but there's almost like an underlying freshness to this, and maybe that's due to the oak moss. That oak moss definitely remains, and there are some ambery tones that start to really that I think are always there, but you can really start to detect more in the dry down. They're not overly sweet, they're just subtly there, but this fragrance almost kind of hints at like an ambery style of fougere in the dry down. And that's something that I love, that style of fragrance. So that's why this really, really speaks to me. And this is one of those fragrances that I would say I guess you could argue that it is linear in a sense. However, there's quite a big difference between the opening and the dry down to my nose. But yeah, I don't know. This fragrance, Manuel Cross hit this one out of the park. Now, is this a better release than Mousse Illuminée? For me, I love Mousse Illuminée. I'm not sure. Like, again, this is a newer fragrance in my collection, so I need to spend more time with it. But I do really, really enjoy this one. And I can't really say, I do have other boozy fragrances in my collection, but I can't really say I have another kind of boozy, fragrance that is quite like this. And just the way that the notes are combined and just beautifully blended together. I feel like there are no real rough edges to this fragrance. He has just done a masterful job with the blending here. Now, is this a fragrance that's going to garner you compliments? I don't know if it's a compliment getter. I think, you know, it's more than just about the juice when it comes to compliments. It's your overall vibe, your personality, I think is what mainly brings compliments, right? Fragrance is just an accessory to all of that. You know, like I said, this isn't a fragrance that's going to scream, right? It's not going to, you're not going to be shoving this in someone's face. You will get a very nice sillage from it. And I would say kind of like a moderate projection. But I think for this style of fragrance, that's the type of performance that you want. Now, in terms of its longevity, you know, I'm getting, you know, 8+, 9+ hours on my skin with this. So, you know, performance is quite good. But like I said, you know, I feel like if this fragrance was a screamer in a beast mode type of fragrance, I'm not sure if I would like it as much, because I feel like there's a real elegance and sophistication in the subtlety that this fragrance has. Yeah, I really, really enjoy the way that this one has been crafted. Man, if you, like I said, if you're looking for like a bold statement maker that is going to, you know, help to set you apart, but it's not going to be a fragrance that, you know, you're just like, oh, hey, everybody look at me. People are gonna catch whiffs as you walk by and they're going to turn and look. That's the type of fragrance that this is. They're gonna be intrigued. At least that's the way that my image of this, and that's the way that this kind of makes me feel personally when I wear it. In terms of seasonality for this, this is a fragrance that I feel would work best in the fall and winter, in the cooler months. Could you pull this one off in the spring? I think so, probably. But yeah, I feel like this fragrance screams fall and winter. Man, this is a solid release from the brand. You know, this is a 2025 release. Is it the best release of 2025? I'm not sure, but it's definitely a solid one in terms of my own collection and the fragrances that I've picked up this year. But yeah, I'll definitely give a later update in talking about, you know, my favorite releases from 2025. This might be at the top of the list. It is really good. And like I said before, I like how Manuel was, in a way, kind of taking a risk with stepping outside what he traditionally does. You know, he's known for creating those kind of woody, earthy, mossy fragrances that, you know, push along the lines of fougere and chypres. And I feel like he kind of stepped outside the box here, you know, with, you know, creating quite a bold statement-making fragrance, but also keeping true to his roots, because in the deep dry down of this fragrance, like I mentioned, it does kind of push along the lines of like an ambery style of fougere, which I absolutely love. So yeah, this is a solid release from Manuel Cross, and yeah, I'm excited to see the direction that this house is going to go in the future. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comment section, are you a fan of Rogue Perfumery, and have you tried their newest release, Bonded? What are your thoughts and opinions on this fragrance? Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.